Hello friends, you are welcome in video lecture series on the topic ecological adaptations. So last time I have discussed the ecological factors. So today I am going to discuss the ecological adaptations. So before going to start the actual topic ecological adaptations, I would like to discuss some concepts under the introduction of these ecological adaptations in different plants. So as far as the course of evolution in the plant species is concerned, the evolution process mainly determined by variations. Number 2, selection, and number 3, adaptations. So, during the course of evolution, many changes naturally takes place in the organisms. It may be plant, it may be animal. All organisms try to evolve as per the changes in the environmental conditions. The process of evolution is going on and it requires many years. So the main course of this evolution is determined by these three factors. That means the variations which are produced in the organisms, number 2, selection, and number 3, adaptations which takes place naturally in the organisms. It may be plant, it may be animal. So adaptations, what is the meaning of this term adaptation? So adaptations are the special modifications which suit the particular environment to the organism. That means the environmental changes takes place, and due to change in this environmental conditions, organism try to change itself. That means main changes, adaptations which occurs, which develops, which produces by the organisms in plants as well as in animals, they may be morphological changes, they may be anatomical changes, and these changes may be physiological. That means these changes, that means structural changes, which are studied under the heading of morphological adaptations or morphological changes, and anatomical adaptations or anatomical changes, as well as some physiological changes are also occurring. So these adaptations are developed due to property of protoplasm. So we know very well what is the meaning of this term protoplasm. The protoplasm is a living substance which is found in each and every living cell, in every living organism. That means this protoplasm is having the property of adaptability, and this adaptability property in the protoplasm of cells of the plants as well as animals helps the organisms to remain in the process of evolution. So those organisms produces certain adaptations or morphological, anatomical, physiological changes as per the change in the environmental conditions. They can survive. But those organisms which doesn't develop any kind of changes, morphological, anatomical, physiological, etc., these organisms which are not producing any kind of changes, they become extinct. That means those organisms, those plants, those animals which produces adaptations, that means those organisms produces the changes, morphological, anatomical, physiological, that in the form of adaptations, they can survive. But those organisms which doesn't changes, they remain as it is, even though environmental conditions are changing, and these organisms don't survive, they become extinct. That means adaptations are the adjustments as per the environmental changes. So some adaptations are short-term changes due to change in the environmental conditions. So these adaptations which occurs in plants as a short-term adaptations. They are not transmitted from one generation to another generation. But some adaptations are heritable in nature. That means due to change in the genetic makeup, some adaptations are produced, and these adaptations are genetically fixed adaptations, and these adaptations are heritable in nature, and all the environmental factors, that means who is responsible for these adaptations? The environmental factors are responsible for these structural adaptations in the organisms, especially in the plants. So all the environmental factors operating simultaneously in the form of single unit. All the environmental factors, there are so many environmental factors, that means climatic factors in the form of light, temperature, atmospheric humidity, etc. Edaphic factors, that means soil factors. So these all factors, climatic factors as well as edaphic factors, they play an important role in creating the adaptations in the organisms. That means all the environmental factors operating simultaneously in the form of single unit, but sometimes this single factor can control the nature of the environment. For example, water. Water is a single factor. In the atmosphere, in the environment, water is available in the form of moisture in the air. Water is available in the water bodies. Water bodies, in another forms of water are also available in nature in the form of ice or snow, etc. So this single factor in the environment can change, can control the nature of environmental conditions. That means this single factor water is responsible for xeric, hydric and basic environmental conditions. So this, what is meaning of xeric conditions? Xeric conditions means dry conditions. If water is not available in adequate quantity in the soil as well as in the air or in atmosphere, then the plants which are growing in that less availability of water, the conditions in that region becomes dry due to more temperature, more wind velocity, less availability of water in the soil as well as in the atmosphere, and these xeric conditions are developed naturally in those regions. Those regions receives very less rainfall. That means water decides the xeric conditions in those regions which receives very less rainfall. That means xeric environmental conditions are decided by the water. Then basic environmental conditions, they are also decided by water. That means those regions, geographical areas which receives moderate rainfall, those regions in which the plants are growing happily, those which are not exposed to the high intensity of light. Soil also contains moderate amount of water, not excess or not less. That means all these moderate conditions, moderate availability of water, moderate climatic conditions, all these conditions are responsible for development of these basic environmental conditions. That means plants which are growing naturally in the xeric habitats are commonly known as xerophytes. Plants which are growing in basic habitats or basic environmental conditions, they are commonly known as mesophytic plants. And those plants which are growing in the vicinity of water, either they may be totally growing below the surface of water in the form of submerged hydrophytes, they may be growing on the surface of water in the form of floating hydrophytes, or they may be growing in the form of marshy plants, waterlogged soils, plants known as amphibious hydrophytes. So these plants which are growing in the vicinity of water, either in the water, on the water or nearby water bodies, on the marshy places, these plants are commonly known as hydrophytic plants. And that means the water single factor decides what kind of plants may be growing in that particular area. That means xeric, basic and hydric environmental conditions are decided by the single factor in the environment, that is the water. So this water, in addition to water, the soil is also playing an important role in deciding the nature of the environment. That means out of these many environmental factors, edaphic factors and water, that means soil factor and water factor, these are independently responsible for deciding the type of environmental conditions. So this soil and water can independently induce the ecological adaptations in the plants. So on the basis of the availability of water, or by using this single factor, relation of water to the growth development of the plants. So this single factor is responsible for dividing the plants into these three basic types of plants, like xeric plants or xerophytic plants, mesophytic plants and hydrophytic plants. So today I am going to discuss the ecological adaptations in these xerophytic plants. So what is the meaning of this xerophytic plant? Which plants are considered as xerophytic plants? So we can define very simply within one sentence. What is the meaning of these xerophytes? So those plants which are growing in dry regions, or deserts are commonly known as xerophytes. So those plants which are also growing in xeric habitats, they are also known as xerophytes. That means you can define this term very simply. Plants which are growing in xeric habitats, they are known as xerophytes. Or plants which are growing in deserts, or plants which are growing in dry regions, they are commonly known as xerophytic plants. So these plants which are growing in these xeric habitats or xeric conditions, xeric habitat shows the particular characters. For example, in xeric habitats, xeric environmental conditions, there is a less availability of water in the environment in the form of atmospheric moisture or humidity. Soil also contains very less amount of water. Humidity in the atmosphere is very less. Soil contains very less amount of water. Then rainfall received by these xeric habitats is very scanty or very less. And atmospheric temperature in the xeric conditions or dry regions or in deserts is comparatively high. Light intensity in the xeric habitats are generally more, and wind velocity in the xeric habitat is also more. So these conditions are commonly occurring in these xeric habitats, and those plants which are exposed to these xeric habitats or xeric conditions are commonly responsible for development of the xerophytic plants. So today I am going to discuss the morphological adaptations in xerophytes. So as far as the xerophytic plants are concerned, they are further divided or classified into different groups of xerophytes. For example, ephemeral xerophytes. So these ephemeral xerophytes are very short-lived plants. They are completing their life cycle during rainy season only, and in the remaining period they remain in the form of their organs like rhizomes, tubers, bulbs in the soil or in the form of seeds only. That means these ephemeral plants are plants which are having very short lifespan. They complete their life cycle during favorable conditions, and during unfavorable conditions they are not available. They are available only in the form of seeds or their propagating organs like tubers, rhizomes, bulbs, etc., which are already stored in the soil. Another group of xerophyte is commonly known as drought resisting xerophyte. So these drought resisting xerophytes are also commonly called as true xerophytes. So these drought resisting xerophytes can produce the many adaptations. They may be morphological adaptations, they may be anatomical adaptations, and they may be physiological adaptations. And due to development of these new characters, adaptive characters, morphological, anatomical, physiological adaptations, these plants can resist the drought conditions and they can survive. They can happily grow in the deserts as well as in dry regions. Another group of xerophyte is commonly known as drought escaping xerophytes. So this drought escaping xerophytes escapes the drought conditions. That means they complete their life cycle when rain is available, when water is available in the soil. During this period only they complete their life cycle and they escape the drought conditions. So that means for our convenience we have divided these different xerophytic plants into different categories like drought escaping xerophytes, drought enduring xerophytes, true xerophytes or drought resisting xerophytes, etc. So today I am going to discuss the morphological adaptations of the xerophytes. So morphological adaptations in xerophytes are reported in various organs. It may be root system, it may be shoot system, it may be leaves. That means these are the main three basic vegetative parts of the each and every higher plant: root, stem and leaf. So these organs shows the morphological changes. That means adaptations. So I have drawn here some figures of the some xerophytic plants. In nature many xerophytic plants are available. First figure shows the opuntia. This opuntia is commonly growing in the less rainfall regions or in dry regions or deserts. In high rainfall region, naturally these plants are not growing. Rarely some plants are there, but many plants are growing happily in dry regions. Another plant is a aloe. This is another example of xerophyte. These plants are commonly known as succulent xerophytes. Opuntia, aloe. These plants shows thick and fleshy organs. They are known as succulent xerophytes. Another plant is casuarina. So this casuarina plant is also another example of xerophyte. This Euphorbia turucala. It is also another example of xerophyte. This Molenbeekia. This is another example of xerophyte. So that means many examples are available in nature. Many examples are available in nature which shows the so many morphological adaptations in their root system, in their shoot system as well as in the leaves also. So as far as morphological adaptations in the root system of xerophytic plants is concerned, what are the morphological adaptations shown by the xerophytic root system? Number one, the root system in all the xerophyte. In all kinds of xerophytes, root system is generally well developed. So what is the meaning of this term well developed? That means root system is well developed. It means root produces many branches, lateral branches, many root hairs, and root system is generally deeper in the soil in order to collect the water from deeper layers of soil. So root system in the xerophytic plants is well developed in order to collect the water from deeper layers of the soil. Then secondary roots are more in number in xerophytic plants. Number 3, seedling shows fast growth. So as compared to another category of plant, mesophytic plants, hydrophytic plants, when seed gets suitable condition for germination like moisture, temperature, air, seed germinates and develops the seedling. So if we compare the development of seedling or growth of the seedling in xerophyte with comparison to all other groups of the plants, the seedling grows very fastly in xerophytic plants. So this is also xerophytic adaptation shown by the xerophytic plants during seedling stage. Then in case of succulent xerophytes, the root system is generally shallow. For example, this is the example of succulent xerophyte, opuntia. This opuntia plant is an example of succulent xerophyte. The root system in this opuntia as well as the root system in this aloe, both are the examples of succulent xerophyte. So these plants shows very shallow root system. Even though root system is very shallow, during rainy season, when water is available in the superficial layers of soil, very fast absorption of water is done by the shallow root systems of the opuntia as well as aloe, and this water which is fastly absorbed during availability of water is stored in the fleshy organs. Here the organ which is fleshy, thick one, it is in the form of modified stem which looks like the green flat leaf-like structures. These are not actually leaves, these are the phylloplates. That means this is modified stem. Phylloplates are green structures are the thick and fleshy structures which can store the water. This is the leaves. Leaves in LOI are very thick and fleshy due to storage of more amount of water as well as mucilage in these leaves. That means even though root system is shallow, it is able to absorb the water very fastly, and water is stored when it is available, and utilize this stored amount of water in the thick and fleshy organs like phylloclades or opuntia as well as thick fleshy leaves of LOI. Then root caps and root hairs are prominently developed in the Europhytic plants root system. That means the well developed these characters helps the plant for coping or resisting or growing the adverse conditions of nature. That means high light intensity, more wind velocity, less availability of water in the soil, etc. The adaptations, morphological adaptations in same. So as far as perennial xerophytic plants are concerned, the perennial xerophytic plants possess hard woody stem. Stem in the perennial xerophyte is hard and woody. This hard woody stem is covered with thick layer of bark. Thick layer of bark is covered by this hard woody stem in order to prevent the heating effect of the light intensity in the environment. Then in case of succulent xerophytes, stem is generally reduced. In case of succulent xerophytes, stem is generally reduced. For example, here in LOI, agave, Zinseridia, these are the examples of succulent xerophytes. So in this LOI, this stem is underground. Stem is underground and it is very reduced. It is very short. It is very small. That means this reduced stem is shown by the succulent xerophytes like LOI, agave, Zinseridia, etc. In case of Casuarina, stem is modified and it is looking like needle. That means this is the example of true xerophyte, Casuarina, or drought resisting xerophyte. So this stem is modified into green structures. So much branched green structures. These green structures are nothing but the branches of the stem. Why these are the stems? Because the stem shows nodes, internodes, etc. And at the regions of nodes, it shows such scaly structures in the form of scaly leaves. That means leaves are reduced to scaly structures. Stem is reduced to, or stem is modified into such elongated needle-like structures. That means needle-like structure of stem is the modification required by this plant in Casuarina. Then in Opuntia, what is the nature of stem? I have already told you earlier. In Opuntia, stem becomes modified into thick and fleshy green flat structures. So this thick, fleshy, green flat structures are nothing but the phylloclades. Modified stem. Name of this modified stem is phylloclade. That means leaves are totally absent. Leaves are reduced into spines in order to reduce or check the rate of transpiration. That means leaves get modified into spiny appendages. Stem is modified into leaf-like structure. That means in order to perform the function of leaf, these phylloclade flat leaf-like structures, they take part in photosynthesis process, as well as due to thick and fleshy nature, they take part in storage of excess quantity of water as well as food material. That means this is the adaptation shown by the Opuntia plant. The flat leaf-like structure known as phylloclades. Then, as far as the morphological adaptations in the leaves are concerned, the leaves in many drought-resisting xerophytes, they are generally reduced. That means very small size. Or generally, in some xerophytic plants, leaves are absent. In some xerophytic plants, leaves are spiny. In Acacia, leaves are very small. They are compound. Pinnately compound leaves are there. That means here, leaves are not present. In Opuntia, leaves are modified into spines. Here, leaves becomes thick and fleshy. Here, leaves becomes scaly structure. That means there is a reduction in the size of the leaf. There is a reduction in the size of leaf in Casuarina. So in Euphorbia, Tirucala, these are the branches of stem which are green, and leaves are very minute which are present at the apical regions of the branches. That means leaves are very small or reduced. In order to check the rate of transpiration, if leaves are expanded, having more area, then there is a possibility of more evaporation of water from the leaf. That means in some plants leaves are reduced, in some plants leaves are totally absent, in some plants leaves are spiny, in some plants leaves are very small or reduced. That means in Casuarina leaves are scaly. I have told you earlier. Scaly leaves are present in Casuarina. In Pinus leaves are present in the form of needle. That means flat leaves are not there. They are needle shaped. That's why commonly they are called as Pinus needles. In yellow leaves are thick and fleshy. In Nerium leaves are thick one, dark green in color. They are leathery. They are covered with coating of many layered epidermis with thick cuticle also. That means thick leathery leaves are shown by this Nerium. In desert grasses, leaves shows rolled conditions. For example, such kinds of leaves are observed in some grasses, desert grasses, rolled leaves. So this is the leaf lamina of Poya. So many examples are available in desert of grasses. So in these desert grasses like Poya, Ammophila, leaf shows rolled conditions. So what is the benefit of this rolled leaves in these plants? So if leaves becomes normal, expanded, there is a possibility of more transpiration, and there is a possibility of the drying of the leaf or death of the total plant also due to desiccation, more loss of water through the transpiration process. In order to check the process of transpiration, the leaves becomes rolled, and due to rolling of the leaves in Poya, Ammophila, like grasses which are growing naturally in the deserts, the surface area of the leaf get reduced automatically and rate of transpiration becomes minimized. That means in order to check the rate of transpiration in desert grasses, leaves becomes rolled due to presence of special kinds of cells which are present in the epidermis of such leaves. These cells are commonly known as motor cells or bulliform cells. So these bulliform cells, when intensity of light increases, they expel out water suddenly and they shrink. And due to shrinkage of these motor cells or bulliform cells which are present in the epidermis of such leaves like Poya, Ammophila, like desert grasses, the leaves becomes rolled, and which are beneficial for these plants to survive under the adverse conditions of nature. So that's all about the morphological adaptations of xerophytes. So next time I am going to discuss the anatomical and physiological adaptations in the same group of xerophytes. So thanks a lot.